Okay, I want to show you what we got going on now. Okay, the last time we had this block and we had the needle bearing mounted in this block along with the shaft, along with the magnet, and it was attached on this rig. I had this on this side. Actually, it was on this part over here, and then this other part was on the other side, and that mounted this block. Now, I talked about this block. The groove in the block held the what do you call that thing? The thing that the magnet activates. I kind of forgot the technical name of it, but the encoder part of it. And then I had that vertical line on there so I could mount it in the middle. The groove held it in place, and then to get the location in the middle, I engraved that line in there so I could line it up. Then I had the dowel pin hole in it, and that attached to this guy, which I'm not using now. Okay, what I did was that this was made to test to see if this worked, and it worked. So now we need to adapt this to the actual unit. So I made up this piece, and I had to now this piece is still going to be used when I get the receiver that's mounted on a board is going to be mounted on this surface, but I still haven't gotten it yet. And it's been, I don't know, like 6 weeks. I ordered it from, what was it, Allied Express, and the shipping on it was like crazy long. So I ordered it from somebody else on eBay, and it wasn't as long, but it's still not here. And there was a place I saw it on eBay. They said they could have it here within 5 days. It was like $14 each. And you can get them on eBay and other places for like $3 or $4. So since I already got these 3 parts from DigiKey and the magnets, I thought, well, I might as well just go ahead and use this for now. I'm not going to, spend $14 for one part and then have all the other ones come in. So I had to make this piece because it's kind of in lieu of this piece, because I had to take this setup and adapt it to fit onto here on the back side, so that they were both this being the magnet side and this being the receiver side. And what was happening was with this piece from DigiKey, it's just the part itself without the board, and that's why I have to use these little captivator things. I guess they absorb some of the energy. And these are, I guess when you get the board, these are already built in. But anyway, what was happening was that when I was turning the unit on, the reading from the encoder was not going to 0. It was starting, I guess, wherever the location was. And this guy, curious scientist, and this is his web page, or the YouTube page. He said that when he that this would start at 0. Now it probably will if you use the board that he used, which is the one I ordered, but I haven't received it yet. So I gotta use what I got to make this work. So that's the part from DigiKey. So what I did here was I have this block back here, which is similar to this. But like I said, what was happening was that when it would start, it wasn't reading 0. It was reading whatever number the magnet was reading on the receiver part. So what this does is that this piece in the front is attached to the pulley. When I have it mounted to the indexer, and that rotates. But since it didn't start at 0, I had to have a way of indexing it, or indexing the receiver so that I could make it start at 0. So what I did was I put this in here, and this rotates. Now these wires, the receiver is inside of here. And when we get done, I'll take it apart and show you it. But what this does is this rotates, and this is spring loaded. So it's just enough tension to when you rotate it, it stays in position, but it's enough to where you can rotate it. And I haven't tried it yet, but I got it all hooked up, and we'll turn the computer on, and then we have to plug this in to plug that into the port to put some juice into this guy and make it come alive. But yeah, so I don't need this part anymore, so that's why it's off, the adjustment part. So that's what this is going to do. And then if I ever get the other part, I'll probably adapt it onto here. But we'll take it one step at a time. So what I also did, let me go up here with you. Okay, remember I talked about this. It had the groove inside. So what I did was I made this gets mounted onto the shaft. Since I got this groove inside, when you mount it on the shaft, it's going to hit on this one side, and then it's going to hit on, then the nut's going to tighten on this side, and you don't want a hollow spot inside of here. So what I did was I made this, it's basically a split washer. So what happens is that you fold this in, and then it fits inside of there. And what that's going to do is that's going to make that a solid piece from here to here. So when you tighten that nut, you're not hitting a hollow spot. It's going to be solid. I got to take just a little bit more off of this so it'll sit all the way down to the bottom. And originally I was going to use the original nut, but you know, that's steel and it's kind of big, and it fits really loose. So what I ended up doing was I made a new one, and it's just enough to where, you know, you can put your hands on there and just, you know, snug that up. And what that amounted to was 26 threads per inch. I mean, it's really a metric size, but 26 threads per inch works. Now the only thing is that when I made this, I wasn't really sure of the pitch diameter. And so what I did was I started out with an ID of like 635, because I think the minor diameter of the thread was like 625. So I wasn't really sure if that was the diameter I got off the shaft. I wasn't really sure that was the minor diameter of the thread. I really didn't know, and I really didn't want to take the time to measure it and figure it all out and put the wires on it and all that jazz. So I figured, well, I use 635 as a starting point, and I'll just keep pulling the thread back until it fits. At some point it's going to fit. And it was actually a lot bigger than I thought, because the ID I ended up with was 1" 680. So if you was to start at 1" 675, 1" 680, you could do a couple passes and it would be a done deal. But I started like at 635, so it took quite a while. You know, at a certain point I said, well, maybe I should have measured all that stuff and figured it out, but I just kept pulling the thread back, and eventually it started to fit, and I knew I was close then. But to save you a lot of time, if you do this, it's 1" 676, 75 is a good starting point for the idea of that thread. 26 threads per inch. Just to let you know. Okay. So the other thing that I did was, you know, originally this screen is really small. It's a, what is it, 128 by 32, but it's really small. And I talked about this before, that the lettering on the original YouTube channel, he has 2 lines and it's really small. And I figured out a way to make it 1 line and a lot bigger. Now I'm going to have to save that for another time because that was a little involved. But it took me like a day and a half to figure that out. So even before that, I ordered this. It's a 128 by 64 screen, and I thought, well, I could adapt this. It's the same setup. You have to use different drivers, and then the more I thought about it, I mean, the screen is only like $3, you know, and I bought like 2 of them. But the more I thought about it, is that, you know, this thing is working. So I'm just going to leave it like that and then maybe play with it later. But it's working now, so why mess up something good, you know? But okay, let's I'm going to turn the computer on. We'll see how this works out. So I'm going to go ahead and plug it in. Okay, see it reading the numbers, and they just start. And they just start, I guess, wherever the magnet is. So that's why I made that little thing in the back. So I'm just going to rotate this. You see how it rotates? Okay, so if when you started it, now you could probably rotate the unit and bring it back to 0. But if for some reason you're at a point where you can't start at 0, okay, let's say, you know, you turn it on and it starts there, and you know, you want to set it back to 0. So by rotating this piece in the back, it's the same thing as rotating the piece in the front, but you're not moving the whole unit. You're just moving this piece in the back. So we just rotate this and bring that to 0. Or if you're in the program somewhere and you need to, you know, you do a series of stuff and you need to set it at 0, at least you have the ability to do that by rotating it here instead of, you know, actually using the unit, because, you know, when the motor's turned on, you know, you got to index it, and it's going to be tough to set it to 0. So I figure with this setup, you can go ahead and zero it out, or even if you wanted to start on a different number. Let's say you're going like 90 degrees, and then you're going like 20 degrees or something, and then you want to set this back to zero to go another 30 or 40 degrees. At least you have the ability to do that. But the nice thing is that this setup works. So I just got to adapt it onto the actual indexer itself to see how well it works with the pulley system and all the components, and make sure it actually does what it's supposed to do. It's one thing to see it here on the test bed, but we got to do it in a real world situation. But this is really nice that this is working out great. You see how nice and big those numbers are. So that's why I'm kind of hesitant about trying to fit a new screen on there, because it's working now, and I don't want to go through all the trouble of trying to find the drivers for the bigger screen and trying to find the fonts for it and all this and that, and as to where this is working now, let's just go with this. But maybe we'll play with that later, like I said. But this is working out really well. And it wasn't really that complicated either. I have to give a shout out to this curious scientist, because he really pulled it off this time. Like I said, I was trying to do this Atomic 14. I go to his thing, but he's got a code for a and a B, and he's got a code that you use as a main thing and something else, and it was just way too complicated for me. I just couldn't figure it out, and I didn't want to sit here and spend the rest of my life trying to figure this out. I just wanted to get something up and running. So I'm going to adapt this to the unit, and maybe we'll be rocking and rolling here real soon. But I got these pulleys done, and I got my 3D printer. Got to make a case to enclose all this stuff, and we're getting there. Okay, well, just wanted to let you know what's going on. All right, we'll talk to you later.